A recent trend I've been noticing in the gacha space is the endless shitting on Zenless Zone Zero. Everywhere you go, you see people either saying Zenless Zone Zero, more like I'm gonna catch some Z's, which is a bit funny, or you see some people constantly doom posting the game, its potential performance on Sensor Tower, and that's gonna be dead on arrival. But if you look at the number of pre-registrations, it's nearly 50 million, way more than what Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact, or even Wuthering Waves has gotten pre-release. So something's not adding up, and I have a few ideas why that's the case. Chapter 1: Genuine Concerns. Before I address the nonsense, I do want to discuss genuine concerns that some people have about Zenless Zone Zero, or reasons why they don't want to try it, so you can stay more focused on the issues I really want to discuss later on. I've been going around the community and seeing what people are saying in regards to why they're not trying Zenless Zone Zero, and one of the most common responses is that they don't have enough time to play another gacha. Some people are playing 3 to 4 gacha games and just don't have enough time in the day to play a 4th or 5th gacha game, which is fair because that's quite a lot of gambit to be doing daily. I do understand. I personally can't do that. I'd say my limit is probably 3 at max, if this is similar to Honkai Star Rail in terms of grind/time it takes to do the daily routine. Another point I saw is that some people do not like the aesthetics of the game, which although is subjective, is a massive factor for someone deciding whether or not they'll try a new gacha game. I'd say 50% of the gacha's appeal is the visual aspect, so even if I do think the game is very well designed visually, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Finally, there aren't enough male characters in the game for some people, and yes, that's 100% the case. Currently, there are only 4 males in the roster of playable characters, and one of them is a bear. So if you play the game to collect male characters, there's minimal appeal in Zenless Zone Zero for you. Chapter 2: Is there an agenda being pushed? So I'll have to take you guys with me a few months back. When the closed beta test for Wuthering Waves was going on in March, a lot of content creators in the Honkai Star Rail sphere started to hype the game up. The narrative at the time was that Kura Games made this fantastic hidden gem gacha game, Project Grey Raven, that no one knew about because they can't market their projects properly. Some content creators, having played the closed beta, were saying that this will be the new Genshin killer and one of the best gachas to come out of all times. The Kura Games developers were talking in interviews on how they changed the story due to player feedback and how they're listening to communities. Some people took that and ran with it, singing the praises of Kura Games. Come release, the game is a buggy mess. The story is really boring and generic, but it gets better later on. According to some people who played both the old and new version, the original version was much more compelling and fit the world more, but take that with a grain of salt since I was not there to personally see the closed beta test myself. Also, 90% of the game features and systems were directly taken from Genshin with little to no improvement or iteration, like the endgame for example, the UI, the layout, the way the exploration works. I really hope that Kura Games would take the 3 years worth of lessons from Genshin and improve on the formula in every aspect. They could have put way more pressure on Genshin, their direct competitor, if they maybe delayed the game and put on a stronger, more complete product on release. I seriously believe that if Wuthering Waves was allowed to reach its full potential, miHoYo would be forced to give us, the player base, a lot more concessions and favourable conditions, like what Kura Games is currently being forced to do right now with the rewards and compensation they have to give out in Wuthering Waves, in fear of losing the current player base. Now with all that context, I hear you asking, Archon, why do you think that there's an agenda that is being pushed by some gacha CCs and some people in the English gacha community? It's because there's a clear double standard going on in regards to people's attitude to Kura Games and miHoYo. Let me explain. When Kura Games listened to their player base by making the changes to the story/character designs pre-release, people lost their shit and sang their praises for months, saying how these developers love their player base and the game, they're so responsive and caring, endlessly praising Kura Games. When miHoYo does the same thing by massively changing the TV system in Zenless Zone Zero, one of their core and signature features according to the lead producer, by removing it out of most modes due to player feedback, people are dead silent at best. Most people still pretend like the issue has not been addressed at all and will have you believe that you have to go through the TV world to log into the game. The lead producer can come out and say that they're willing to reduce the amount of time and grind it takes to do the stamina and dailies, and that they're willing to add quality of life features according to feedback and even auto mode. People are dead silent. Suddenly the devs are not listening. Even in the pre-release livestream, where they outright say they're ready to completely replace the Hollow Deep Dive system, again one of the main selling points according to miHoYo, not a single peep from anyone. Wuthering Waves has a game-breaking bug a day and terrible optimization to this day in 1.1, and people keep acting like it's fine because devs are listening, whatever that means. Or they're getting a few pulls in the male occasion. When Argenti was not voiced for 2 patches in a row in Honkai Star Rail, in the EN dub, people did not go out of the way to excuse it. But when you get a negative crit rate while using food buffs in Wuthering Waves and call that unacceptable, you get told to just take the free stuff and shut up. When people bring up terrible performance on mobile devices and in general on PC, Wuthering Waves fans are very quick to point fingers at the consumers for having terrible phones or not good enough gaming PCs. You know, the phones in question, including the recent iPhones and gaming phones like the ROG Ally. They like to pretend that Wuthering Waves is this super graphically intensive game that if you don't have a NASA computer in your hand, you don't deserve to play. The mobile market is essential for gacha games, since these games demand you to play them on a daily basis, and a mobile device is the most convenient way to do that. Going all the way to defend unacceptable issues to the point of blaming the consumer and not the developer is completely insane. It just shows how dedicated some people are to put current games on a pedestal. Also, respectfully, if I'm sitting down on my PC, my first thought is not to boot up my favourite mobile gacha game and play that at my desk, especially when there are many high-quality, computationally intensive games that can only be played on PC or console, like Elden Ring or Helldivers 2, and then be surprised when current games becomes complacent in the future, like how the same people tend to claim MiHoYo did with Genshin Impact. You cannot be holding current games and MiHoYo at different standards. Now, why is an agenda being pushed in the first place? Let me get into it. Chapter 3. Why is there an agenda being pushed? As I explained in my first video on this channel, MiHoYo's goal with Zenless Zone Zero is to tap into an underserved market. Therefore, the audience that they're going for is different from the current Wuthering Waves, Genshin Impact, and Honkai Star Rail player base, as appealing directly to these audiences would be just a very, very expensive way of splitting their revenue 3 ways instead of 2 ways. A similar thing has happened with Honkai Star Rail when it was coming out. Some people were shitting on it and saying it was going to be dead on arrival because they dislike turn-based games as a genre and could not come to terms with the fact that not every gacha game is going to fit their personal taste. Doom posting and hating on an upcoming gacha game can also be a form of coping mechanism for those people who will not or cannot play the new gacha game, to deal with the fear of missing out and the hype going around the new gacha game coming out, like Zenless Zone Zero. There's also a lot of anti-MiHoYo bias in the Wuthering Waves camp. Some portion of the Wuthering Waves players are disgruntled ex-Genshin players who wanted Genshin Impact to be a game it's never going to be, and got frustrated by MiHoYo not implementing their wishes for the game, especially in regards to the difficulty or perceived difficulty of the combat. So it's natural for them to have a desire to be biased against the game studio they perceive as having wronged them for the past few years. In regards to some of the content creators, MiHoYo has blacklisted and hurt quite a few with their questionable and terrible practices in the past, which could have affected their livelihoods or financial situation. Not a lot of people consider this angle since they're not content creators, but if you have worked a job, you can probably imagine MiHoYo as being a bad former boss, and then you can see the picture. Also, for some content creators, getting the communities to fight each other and generating constant drama can be a good source of revenue, especially if you report on it. Creating a financial incentive. Drama farms, well, and to be completely honest, it's quite entertaining as well. It doesn't require much effort to cover, aside from the mental toll of course, and can increase your viewership if you know what you're doing. Of course, the topic of why people do this is very nuanced, since every individual has different intentions and it's hard to tell what people's real intentions are. For example, a lot of content creators also put on a persona for the viewers and content. These are the most sensible ideas I have come up with after looking around the community and talking to people of different thoughts, so do keep that in mind when coming to your own conclusions. Now that we've established that there is an agenda being pushed, and why, let me explain why it's terrible for the gacha community. 4. Why is the agenda pushing bad? The main reason why I'm making this video, aside from being passionate about topics like this, is because I generally believe that the current agenda pushing and environment that's being fostered in the gacha community is very harmful to not the developers but us, the player base. For example, if people continue to make excuses for current games' shortcomings, eventually they will get complacent and the quality and experience of Wuthering Waves would suffer, as there's less pressure from the player base and more yes men and apologizers. Also, for the gacha community as a whole, fighting constantly, doom posting and agenda pushing makes us fight each other and takes away the focus and pressure from the gacha companies. More people constantly arguing over which anime-themed coin slot game is better, or which company they perceive as slightly less greedy, is not productive at all. It only benefits the company and not us, the players. Chapter 5. Solutions, Conclusions, and Final Thoughts. So as viewers, content creators, and people who care about the gacha game community, what do we do? Here are a few final thoughts and ideas I want to leave you guys with. Don't rely on gacha content creators for final thoughts on topics like this, including myself. A lot of the time there's a financial incentive for people to push certain narratives to farm engagement. Also keep in mind that a lot of content creators are people like us, and have inherent biases that they might not be aware of. So try to take in a diverse range of opinions and look at the facts for yourself before coming to a conclusion on the topic. Don't trust the companies or the devs running these games. Their goal and incentive is making as much money as possible from us. Even their perceived kindness is often just a strategy to make more money in the long term, and not because they love their player base. Always be suspicious of anything a gacha game company does, and do not feel like you don't have the right to criticize them. There's a reason why so many gacha games are coming out. Gacha games make money hand over fist. They're swimming in cash every month. Always ask for more because they can definitely afford it, and it's our interest as consumers to advocate for ourselves and our desires. Finally, keep in mind that gacha games are a diverse genre now, so it's only natural you will not enjoy everything they have to offer. If you are looking to play a new gacha game, give it a few hours yourself before deciding whether or not you want to skip it. This goes for any gacha game, whether it's Wuthering Waves, Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact, Zenless Zone Zero, Arknight Zenfield, etc. You get the idea. Thank you guys for listening to what I have to say. If you wondered why I didn't call anyone out specifically in this video, it's because this is not aimed at any one individual. This issue is present in the entire gacha game community, and the issue is not isolated to a certain subsection or absent from them. The goal of the video is to make you, the viewer, change your way of approaching these issues and to find your own conclusion rather than harassing or bullying someone. Thank you Mr. Pokey, Gacha Smack and Tectone for being inspirations to this channel. And thank you Luna, Cupid and Reverie for helping me make this video. If you enjoyed the video and what I had to say, make sure to like and sub. If you disagree with anything I have to say, then please let me know in the comments or join the Discord if you want to have discussion. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.